Fellas, today is a very, very good day to be a fan of this beautiful game, Super Mario RPG, because we just got updated sales numbers from Nintendo for Switch hardware as well as Switch software, and let me tell ya, it's better than I thought it would be. So today we're going to take a closer look at all of the updated sales numbers from Nintendo's recent investor meeting update. We're going to go over all of the first-party software, the Switch hardware itself, and discuss what it might mean for the future, what it means for a potential Switch 2 release in 2024. And of course, if you're new here and you enjoy Nintendo Switch news, theories, discussion, speculation, I really would appreciate you subscribing. Let's get into it. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games, and today we're taking a closer look at all of these new sales numbers for Nintendo Switch software and hardware straight from the horse's mouth. Now, I am going to give a huge shout out to this Twitter account I recently discovered. They do incredible graphs and charts for Nintendo's financial data. Of course, you can go through all of their financials yourself on their Japanese websites, and, you know, I'll link that down below as well. But I do want to give a huge shout out to Pierre485_ on Twitter. That is their tag. They do incredible work. I recently discovered this account, and I don't know where they've been all my life because they just make incredible graphs and charts, like I said. So definitely go give them a follow if you are interested in sales data for not just Nintendo, but other games as well. So starting off with the hardware, which is definitely the most important metric, Nintendo Switch shipped 6.9 million units this quarter, so that would be from October 1st to December 31st. And that is a decrease as expected. In that same period last year in 2022, for that fiscal year, the Switch sold 8.22 million units. Of course, there was a Pokemon game during that quarter, so that is worth noting, but still, it is a decline in sales for the holiday period. But I think that's still really good. Like, I'm not an analyst, you know, I'm not actually really informed when it comes to this stuff beyond just doing my own research, but 7 million, or, you know, nearly 7 million Switch units sold during the holiday season alone. To me, I read that, you know, the Switch is in its 7th year. That's not too bad. I think a lot of people were expecting a much harsher drop in Switch sales. I mean, as we'll get to, Nintendo actually had to up their forecast from 15 million for this fiscal year all the way up to 15.5 million, which isn't like a drastic increase, but still it's selling better than even they expected. And with that, the Switch has now hit a total of 139.36 million units sold, making it the second best selling Nintendo console of all time. We also learned that it is now the best selling Nintendo console of all time in Japan. So nearly 140 million units. I'd imagine that number has been passed almost since January hasn't been accounted for, but still, that is an incredible number. And if you're keeping up with the sales numbers of other platforms, Nintendo is now about 16 million away from outselling the PS2 and Nintendo DS, meaning it is very likely, in my opinion, that barring any crazy Switch 2 drops in the summer, like early summer, I think it's very likely the Switch will actually end up becoming the best-selling hardware of all time from a gaming manufacturer. We could see a substantial slowdown if they announce the Switch 2 in the coming months, like in March or something. It would probably slow down quite a bit. But even still, if the Switch comes out this year, the Switch 2 comes out this year, this thing's going to be selling on store shelves for a couple years. Like, the 3DS was still on store shelves until 2020. So I think it's pretty likely that the Switch actually will end up beating PS2 and become the best-selling console of all time, which is just crazy to see. This is also super interesting data here. This is a breakdown of sales per unit, or sales per type of Nintendo Switch. So as you can see, this past quarter, Q4 2023, the Switch OLED was by far the best-selling type of Nintendo Switch at 3.47 million units. And even the Switch Lite and OG Switch, like, you can see they were doing, like, pretty bad for the past couple of quarters for Nintendo. But I'm guessing this is because of those bundles. They had those aggressive Animal Crossing bundles. It was $200, was a special edition Switch Lite, and came with New Horizons included. And then, of course, they had the tried and true Mario Kart bundles for the base Switch, so definitely an increase in sales there, but still, Switch OLED is taking the lead every year, as you can see here, since it released. It's just been far and away the most popular type of Nintendo Switch. Now let's get into the software. So Super Mario Bros. Wonder, I think we had heard that it had sold like 4 million or something in October alone, so we didn't have that much data. The game came out October 20th, but we now know that through December 31st, Mario Wonder has shipped over 11.96 million units and has actually sold through just under 11 million of those copies that have been shipped out. So that maybe doesn't sound that great. However, as Pierre says in their tweet here, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is the fastest selling game in the franchise. Like, we had heard that back in November when they gave us those initial sales, but now we have way more data, and it's still beating New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which, you know, it's not beating it massively, but by like 1.5 million for its shipped total. But still, Mario Wonder, 7th year of the Switch's life, still becoming the fastest selling Mario game of all time. That's freaking crazy, man. Like, that is huge, huge numbers for Mario Wonder. It's not as much as, like, Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom sold, and we'll get to it, like 20 million copies so far, but it also had a couple more months, and frankly, I think Zelda is something that people, it's more of a zeitgeist game. Like, people are more excited to pick that up immediately, whereas Mario Wonder, I mean, this game, as long as they stock it on store shelves, I mean, this game is going to sell, and will certainly secure itself a spot in the top 10 best-selling Switch games, no doubt. All right, this next one took me by complete surprise. We knew this game was doing very well in Japan, but I didn't think it was doing this well. Super Mario RPG, so happy about this, has shipped 3.14 million units in its first 6 weeks. So it came out in mid-November. They only had 6 weeks on the market, and it shipped over 3 million copies. Now, that is very good for an RPG, even a Mario RPG, because as they go into here, I mean, this is completely crushing the total lifetime sales of Super Mario RPG on the SNES. Now, as far as I'm aware, Super Paper Mario is technically the best-selling Mario RPG, even though that one's not really an RPG, but Origami King, a Switch comparison that we can give for Mario RPG, Origami King, as of December 2022, has sold 3.47 million units lifetime. And consider this, Origami King came out during 2020, when the Switch was like absolutely peaking. Animal Crossing was out, the Switch was going crazy because of world events. So for Mario RPG to show up here and do this number in just 6 weeks, that's a really good sign for the future of Mario RPGs. I think a sequel to this game is all but guaranteed, and I would also expect, you know, I'm hesitant to say I think Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door will do better, but, you know, despite being a remake, I think that game's going to do really well. Like, there's a chance that game does better than Origami King, which, once again, released during the height and popularity of the Nintendo Switch. So, to see the sales success for a Mario RPG game this late in the Nintendo Switch's life cycle is just absolutely incredible. I'm so happy because Mario RPG was a huge hit for me last year. And frankly, I would just love to see the series continue and to see Paper Mario flourish like it did in the olden days. So, yeah, huge numbers for Mario RPG. Very happy about that. This one's interesting, but maybe not too surprising. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has sold over 60 million copies. Just an absolute juggernaut. We actually have a breakdown quarter by quarter. Just in Q4 alone last year, it sold 3.5 million units. As we're about to get to, that's more than the entire lifetime sales of Pikmin 4. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is like a 10-year-old game, so that's just crazy sales. I mean, the Switch won't last long enough for it to become Nintendo's best-selling game. You know, it's second to Wii Sports, which is at like 80 million, so unlikely that it would sell that much, but maybe if it takes a couple years for some reason for us to get a new Mario Kart on Switch 2, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe could end up hitting that. I don't think it will. But then moving on to Pikmin 4, it actually shipped another 720,000 units during the holiday season and is now over 3.3 million units just in 5 months. It's by far the best-selling Pikmin game, and I hope this means that maybe we won't have to wait too long to get Pikmin 5. Because Pikmin 4, once again, just a huge hit last year for me. I really love that game, and I hope we don't have a 10-year wait before Pikmin 5. That's what I'm hoping for here. Tears of the Kingdom. Now, this one, I'm not sure how to read this, man. It feels like sales really dried up. I mean, it's still selling, you know, just under 1 million per quarter. This quarter, it sold 780,000 units. The previous quarter, just under 1 million. And then, of course, the first quarter that it released, it sold 18.5 million, which is just absolutely massive for the first 3 months on market. I mean, especially when you consider, I think that would have just technically been from May to the end of June. So that's really impressive for Tears of the Kingdom to start out the gate with. But the legs on this one don't seem as strong as I was expecting, especially when you consider that it actually sold less during the holiday season than it did during like late summer. That feels a little weird to me, so I'm not too sure about Tears of the Kingdom's legs. Of course, this game is already the second best-selling Zelda game, only behind Breath of the Wild, so it's a huge, massive success, but I do question how long it will continue to sell. Maybe we get like a Switch 2 version that has some sort of new content or master mode, or, you know, that kind of thing, and that will then continue selling for years to come, but I am surprised to see how fast this one dried out. I mean, for comparison, Pikmin 4 almost sold as much during the holiday season as Tears of the Kingdom. That's actually pretty crazy, so that's interesting, right? Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, hey, the hot topic of the internet in January, Pokemon and Power World, that shipped another 1.13 million units during the holiday quarter. It's now over 24.36 million units total, and is actually the third best-selling Pokemon game. It overtook Gold and Silver, so now it's only behind Sword and Shield, which it probably won't pass if I had to guess, as well as, of course, Red, Green, Blue, and Yellow. So, huge sales success for Game Freak, and hopefully the game we get this year is finished. And then these last couple things here, I don't think we really need to dive too deeply into. New Horizons is at just under 45 million units, so still selling pretty well. Smash Ultimate doing great. That bundle definitely moved a lot of units, 1.23 during the holiday season. Breath of the Wild sold another 460k units. See, that's what's weird, right? You would think Breath of the Wild would slow down astronomically, but Tears of the Kingdom, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom almost sold double, but like, I feel like it should be doing more than that, but I don't know. Maybe I'm completely off base. Mario Odyssey shipping 700,000 units during that quarter, which is just absolutely crazy. That Mario movie effect is definitely real. Even against Mario Wonder and Mario RPG, Mario Odyssey still just clearly a system seller, even in the Switch's 7th year on the market. Sword and Shield, I mean, hey, 120,000 units for that in just a quarter, even though there's multiple new Pokemon games since then. That's not bad at all. Super Mario Party still selling super well. They had that new Joy-Con bundle, so I imagine that helped a lot. This one's interesting. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe actually sold 500,000 units during this holiday quarter, despite Mario Wonder coming out. So I guess there's no such thing as too much Mario. I made that video a couple weeks ago. Yeah. That doesn't really matter. You can have two 2D Mario platformers on store shelves during the holiday, and they will sell as well as a new game, which is just, I mean, this is just ridiculous. Same thing here with Bowser's Fury. It looks like that sold almost another 600,000 units during the holiday season. Just, Mario's unstoppable, man. This one, once again, just super interesting. It's so crazy to see the legs on some of the Switch software. In Q4 of this year, Mario Party Superstars sold just under 900,000 units. On top of Super Mario Party selling, like, what did I say, 500,000? That is crazy that 2 Mario Party games are coexisting on store shelves and selling that much. Like, that's just ridiculous. Also, hey, just a huge shout out to my beloved Nintendo Switch Sports. Another 1.7 million units during the holiday season. We're definitely getting that Switch Sports Resort. Like, people say this game is dead, and I mean, as you can see, sales have slowed down, but for this game that came out in 2022 to pretty mediocre reception, for it to sell this well still, I mean, that's pretty freaking good. So yeah, that was a lot of numbers, but as you can tell, the Switch is still doing incredibly well in its 7th year on the market. Now, it is worth noting that the Switch hardware still sold worse this year. Switch software is still down versus last year, but when you look at this chart that Nintendo put out, you can see that for this fiscal year, with their expected 15.5 million, it's actually going to be a significantly less steep drop-off versus what it was from fiscal year 2022 to fiscal year 2023. So the fact that they're maintaining and not dropping off a cliff even more than they were already is pretty crazy. And when you see their annual playing users, I mean, these are active people that are willing to buy games. You have 122 million people that are willing to spend money on software right now, which is why we're seeing both Mario parties, both 3D Marios, both 2D Marios on the system still selling extremely well. People are thirsty for software. So I think we're going to continue to see that kind of sales into 2024. I mean, I think Mario vs. Donkey Kong, that's interesting because I'm not too familiar with the sales of that series in the past, but I've been talking about Princess Peach Showtime quite a bit. I think that game is going to sell 5 million units at least. Like, I think that game is going to be a pretty big success because it's going to appeal to a demographic that Nintendo doesn't really target too much. So I think Princess Peach Showtime is going to be a huge success. We only know about 2 other games, being Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Once again, Luigi's Mansion 3 still selling. It sold another 1 million+ units this quarter alone. I think Luigi's Mansion 2 HD could be a pretty massive success. People are acting like this year is really bad because it's all remakes and remasters, but Nintendo is releasing the right remakes and remasters. Luigi's Mansion 2 and Paper Mario, as we just saw with the sales success of Super Mario RPG last holiday, those games could be really massive sellers, like better than some new games that they release. Like, that's not a weak lineup. Just because it's underwhelming to us because we've already played these games doesn't mean it's weak to Nintendo in terms of profit. I think that's a big disconnect that people have when they look at the Switch's lineup, depending on what year you're looking at. And in 2024, yeah, it's a lot of remakes and remasters. It's a lot of remakes and remasters of Mario games that are proven to sell very, very well. With all that said, I don't think this really moves the needle too much on the Switch 2 release date. I'm still thinking March of next year. I don't see how you could look at these sales this holiday season and think, yes, they need to release new hardware this year. It would be another dip, no doubt, but if they do a new model like the Switch Mini, as we're expecting, more aggressive bundling, a Switch price cut, and then have software, I mean, once again, even a remake like Thousand Year Door, I think the Switch will be completely fine this holiday, especially when you consider we're almost certainly getting a new Pokemon game. I still think the Switch 2 will be announced, or at least mentioned, during their next investor briefing, which is, I think, going to be released in early May. I think that's when we hear our first true mention of it, and then we'll get a reveal later in the year, but as it stands, I'm not too eager. I don't think Nintendo's too eager to abandon this user base either. But of course, this upcoming Nintendo Direct, hopefully in the coming days or weeks, that will tell us a lot more about what they do plan on releasing this year and how much confidence they have in selling more Switch software and hardware in 2024. I think that direct is going to be very, very telling for 2024 versus 2025 in terms of a Switch 2 release window. But that is going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I know it was kind of like a lot of nerdy numbers and stuff, but I'm very fascinated by sales data and kind of tracking it. Even though I'm not like an expert on it, it's fun to like look and see how well things are doing versus what you expect. So if you enjoyed, of course, subscribe for more Nintendo Switch discussion, analysis, theories, all of that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. Join my Discord that is linked down below. And until next time, folks, peace.